If you've ever shared macro enabled Excel files, either through the email or through like a shared drive, you'll probably experience this error where it says be careful about files from the internet. And even if you click enable editing, it'll actually still might say Microsoft has blocked the macros. So I'm going to show you how to fix that here. So the first thing you do is go to the file in the file system, you right click it and go to properties. And then on the general tab, you should have in the security section a little checkbox for unblock. You unblock, click OK. Now when I open the file, I'll just get the generic enable content warning, and I could just hit enable content, and then all my macros will work. If you're still getting another error, then you need to work on your settings. And now I'll walk you through the different settings now. To adjust macro settings, you go to File, and then Options. And then on the bottom here, you go to Trust Center settings, and then the macro settings. Now let's talk about these 4 different settings that you have here. So the first option is to block everything with no warning, which is no good because then you won't know stuff is blocked until you actually go to try to run it, and then it'll be like, hey, it doesn't work. The next option is to block everything with warning, which is better because then you know what's going on. And this setting blocks everything except for things assigned with a digital certificate that are issued by a certificate authority. These can be very costly, so anybody that's writing these is going to let you know the setting that need. Otherwise, you're probably never going to need this setting. And the last option is to enable everything, which will allow all macros, which is definitely not recommended just because macros have a lot of permissions, especially with the file system. And so if you're allowing everything, that could really open you up to some security risks. The last 2 options, enable 4.0 macros, that's just for legacy macros. So if you're writing macros today, you'll never need that. And the last option, to trust access to the VBA project module, you'll not ever really need that as well. That's for some really deep access to like programmatically insert modules and things like that, which I can't ever see an actual use case for doing that. So this second option is the best option. It sounds bad because you're disabling macros, but the thing is they're disabled as long as they're not in a trusted location or trusted document, which I'll show you how to do here. So I'm going to leave the setting as that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to trusted locations, and then I'm going to say add a new location, and I'm going to browse to a folder that I'm going to store all of my macro enabled workbooks in. So I'm just going to put it as documents and then workbooks. And then I'm going to put all my workbooks that have macros in there. Now you could, if you're doing macros for work and everything is going to be in your documents folder, just choose the entire documents folder. But if not, choose a specific folder within it, and then make sure to choose that subfolders of this location, because if not, it's only going to be the files that are in the root of it. So if you create folders that are inside of this, those aren't going to be trusted unless you check that box right there. So click OK. Now all the macros that or macro enabled workbooks that I put in that folder are going to be trusted. Now you have trusted publishers and trusted documents as well. Now publishers is going to be more of a professional thing where it's usually something that you have installed on your computer that gets trusted. And documents, you can only really trust a document when it's opened and you say trust this document, and if it gives you that warning. You can't actually specify this document, I want it to be a trusted document. So the best option is always just to use the trusted locations and enable the macros that way. So that's how you enable macros. And it is the same process in Word, PowerPoint, and Access and all the Office applications. However, they are all separate entities. So whatever you set in one is not going to affect the other. So if you want to set your trusted location, for Word and Excel, you're going to have to set the trusted location in both places to get it to work, because looks exactly the same, but they are completely treated differently by each application. Please like and subscribe for more ways to get VBA to automate your daily work.